We are members of the 9th Brigade Alcatraz Battalion. We need to give a huge thank you to Georges Ivanov, the Ukraine Matters community, and Cars for Ukraine. We've been watching this fundraiser closely, and we've noticed that in just under 3 weeks, you've raised 30,000 euros for us to get vehicles. Thank you so much. Keep that last push going there. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!
And hello everyone, we are starting our stream right now. As always, before we say anything else on this stream, I would like us all to participate in saying thank you to the people that often stay behind the scenes, which is the moderating team. The guys are working very, very hard, so we must say thanks to them to keep off the Russian trolls and bots away from our reasonable conversations. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, guys. Please join me in giving a hand to them. Secondly, we are still running the fundraiser for the Alcatraz Battalion, a thank you from which you just heard. The link will be appearing all across the video. Remember that while this is my primary job, I am a streamer, YouTuber, and so on. I appreciate any kind of donations and funds. That is obviously nice. But please, if you just have some money to spare and you would like to support this channel, weighed up of sending money to me, please consider first and foremost donating it to the forces in Ukraine. If you have some leftovers after that and you would be willing to share, I would appreciate it. This is my primary income and it would help sustain my family. But please, 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 first and foremost, support the Ukrainian armed forces. They need it the most. With this said, let's begin today's show, guys. Wow, we haven't met in forever. And so today I would like to make a very, very brief intro, kind of getting a little bit of a follow-up on what's up with Russian economy. And after that, I would like to transition to the questions as fast as possible because we have so many topics that we haven't talked about in a while. So let's do it very, very fast. I've already posted the questions link, so there is essentially a tag attached in the chat that says post your questions here. When you press it, it will take you to a separate part, and then you write your questions, and I'll try to read as many questions as I can during today's stream. So we start with the state of the Russian economy. Now, I want to tackle this because we've seen some of the news talking about that Russia is reducing their interest rate from 21% to 20%. And I obviously instantly got questions stating, Georgie, if Russia is reducing interest rate, that means that their economy is getting better, so they are more comfortable with now having sort of a less inflation risk in their economy, so they're lowering the interest rate to finally start giving some ability for the economy to actually work. And that could be true. We never know. That could be true. What we always need to look at is like, is there any alternative reasons could be? And the alternative reasons were there. Now, as we know, the head of the central bank who controls the interest rate, Nabiullina, she has been pursuing this hard interest rate politics for a while now. This is because what the economic theory is teaching us. When your inflation is high, you raise the interest rate to slow down the economy, so like kind of the less money flows into the economy because it's too expensive to take loans, and that will, the slowdown of the economy essentially will cool down the interest rate, to put it very, very simply. This is the normal rate. However, Russia's inflation and Russia's economy is mostly government stimulated. Because Russia is waging an aggressive war against its neighbor, they are pumping insane amounts of money into their own military industrial complex. This caused the industry and just economy of Russia to start overheating, where Russian central bank started putting up high interest rate, but the Russian economy still wants to get those tanks and everything, and they still put more money into the economy, which basically started suffocating all of the more of a civilian sector economy. For example, we're going to tackle that Russia has experienced some growth in Russia already at the start of this year. But that growth, when you actually look in like which industries grew, then you start noticing that some weird patterns, that industries that are working with the military, those are the ones that are more or less growing. And then any other industry that does not work with the military is already in a full-blown recession, like in very significant numbers. So, and that's how the Russian economy looks right now. So a lot of pressure was on the Russian central bank head, Elvira Nabiullina, to lower that interest rate. Purely political. And there we go. That's our secondary explanation. So now we have two competing explanations potentially. One, Russia's economy is doing better, and therefore they're reducing the interest rate. Two, there is just insane political pressure on the Russian central bank president, and they need to lower interest rate just so something happens in economy. And most likely it will backfire because inflation rate is just, it's being raised by the forces that are not just simple market forces, so to say. And we kind of got somewhat our answer, because if we look back at like what was the state of the Russian economy, like let's kind of tackle that question, whether or not Russian economy is doing well. Well, before the start of 2025, Russia always estimated what is going to be our budget deficit, right? We can estimate like how healthy economy is doing is like whether or not you are able to put your government budget together. Like, it's like your expenses and your income. Like, how do you balance it out? So what we saw, the expectations were that for 2025, Russian economy will have a total of 0.5% of GDP budget deficit. So basically, Russia will need to either print or borrow money to or pull from their reserves 0.5% of the budget deficit. This was at the start of the year. Then we had an economic update during the first quarter where they revised that for the whole year. And this is important, this is for the whole year. I want to underscore this, that for the whole year, the budget deficit of Russia will be 1.7% of GDP. So they revised the total expected, essentially minus of their budget to be like 3 times larger than was expected. And this was already compared to like the previous years, insanely large. And then we have just recent data that's been updated by, for example, Reuters here on June 10th, that in June 10th, Russia has reported some of their numbers, and in the first 5 months of the year, Russia's budget deficit real is already 1.5%. Again, they revised it to be 1.7 per year, yet already in the first not even half a year, they are already at 1.5 real. This is where they are now. And it's still half a year to go. Now, this is already should indicate to you that, yeah, maybe Russia is not doing as hot. And here, the most important thing that we need to understand that also some of the Russian numbers are cooked. Like the way that they're calculating some of these percentages is not often fully recognized. So we need to take this with a grain of salt. And because we see the Russian economists and Russian politicians coming out and they're trying to kind of like convey that everything is better than it seems, there is a good chance that some of these numbers could be also a little bit twisted, and potentially the actual situation could be even worse than this. But let's move on, because so far, well, this has been Western media talking about it. This has been, well, this guy on YouTube talking about this. You know, why would you trust me? Like, oh, I know that I'm looking like at the data that Russia reports itself, but still, I'm just a guy on YouTube. So obviously, it couldn't be this bad. Oh, right, yeah, because Russian head of the central bank states it herself. So apparently Russian economy is doing so great, so we need to cut the interest rate from 21 to 20%. But then when they make the interview, she says, well, the Russian economy is actually running out of resources. And I'm going to quote here. We need to understand that many of these resources have been exhausted, Nabiulil said. The unemployment rate, according to Rosstat, has dropped to a historical minimum 2.3%, and mass immigration and the drafting of men for the war have created a shortage of personnel, which government estimates at 2 million people. Wow, that is pretty brutal. And I mean, you can read the text here as well, what she says live. You're welcome to picture this, or just Google the article yourself. If you don't want to believe a guy on YouTube, like there is the head of the Russian central bank just telling it like, we're pretty screwed, like we're out of resources. But it's not only her, like it's not only her that is speaking. The Russian economy minister warns of looming recession. Wait a second, what do you mean looming recession? What do we have here? It was like, oh yeah, Russian economy. But the GDP grew 1.4% year on year in the first quarter of 2025. I mean, 1.4%. It's not too bad, right? Like, I mean, that's not terrible. That's still a growth. Like, it's a small growth. Yeah, it's a small growth. But a lot of the Western economies have been growing 1.412% for almost a decade, and they've been doing fine, right? But again, the devil is in details that I explained before. So when he states that overall, I think we are on the brink of recession, the Russian Minister of Economics, that should kind of suggest you where exactly Russia is going. And the magic bullet that Russia had was the National Wealth Fund. This is the Russian piggy bank. And thank you so much to Prune60 on Blue Sky, absolute queen, for following up with the state of the Russian. It's a little bit bad to see because my face is in here. So let me just move the picture just a little bit to the side just so you can see it. Oh, there we go. So you don't need to care too much about numbers. Like, I mean, you can look at it and so on, but you need to see that it's going down. Basically, it's getting lower and lower and lower and lower, and it's gotten even more lower in May, and it's going to get even lower in June. The point of the matter is that this year, this National Wealth Fund is gone. Russia doesn't really have a lot of other ways to pull the money. And this is where we kind of get to the only saving grace for Russia. The only saving grace for Russia is basically Donald Trump. Like that's as simple as it gets. The only person that is saving Russia right now from a complete collapse is Donald Trump. When at the end of the last year, I said that if we're just going to continue doing what we're doing, then Russia is just going to fall by the end of 2026. Well, to be honest, now I'm looking at these numbers and how bad it is. It could have been quite possible that Russia would fall at the end of 2025. But because Trump is throwing Russia this bone, lifting some of the follow-up on sanctions, there's talks right now just on recent Russian Economic Forum that Russia should be kind of like renegotiated trade relationships and so on. It's all nonsense. But what it can give is potentially US will lift sanctions, allowing Russia access to the external funds for money. That would give a big life vest to Russia. Because right now, Russian economy is suffocating. It's running out of money. They are living through this year for now, but there's going to be absolute bloodbath around September, October, when Russia starts discussing the budget for next year. Because then they're going to start assessing the budget situation for this year. And that is going to be an absolute bloodbath because, I mean, they still can do things in their economy. They can try to freeze the, they can lower the interest rate in general, and then they can freeze the money that is being held on the accounts, therefore kind of controlling the economy a little bit more, but not a very risk-friendly strategy, let's put it this way. Overall, I just wanted to kind of start off with and just underscore it very, very clearly that it's not only me that is saying that Russian economy is collapsing pretty much. It's not only the Western journalists that are finally catching up of what we've been saying here, that Russia is not doing so hot. No, the Russians themselves are coming up and basically are stating like, we're screwed, we're absolutely fucked, unless we're just being sold by Big Donny D. So, yeah, that's where Russia is. They're pretty screwed, but please do not expect that Russia is just gonna collapse right now. It is not impossible scenario, but I feel that our orange not friend is giving a little bit of a saving vest here for Russia. Once again. So let's move to the questions, and then we're going to talk about whatever other topics overall. All right, not a lot of questions, by the way, guys. So please do. We are actually 1,400. Thank you so much for joining up. It's very nice to see you all back. So please join follow the link to donate to the Ukrainian Armed Forces. That is the most important thing. Like, if you enjoy the stream, if you enjoy what I'm saying, if you enjoy seeing Russia collapse, do that. But most importantly, let's start talking about the questions that you're asking. So Ricardo Zettino asks, have you seen the recent Politico article on Yermak relationship with Trump administration? If so, what are your thoughts on it? So Yermak is an interesting person in Zelensky's administration. Yermak is very divisive, like the way that he's approaching things, but he's also getting shit done. So he's one of those people that, you know, can come up somewhat abrasive, but he's delivering. That's the problem. You know, it's like people might not like Yermak, but if he's delivering on his results, then it's kind of a question whether or not he is as useless. Is he likable like Zelensky? Oh, absolutely fucking not. Like, the guy is very, 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 very harsh. Like, he can come out really, really demanding. He likes to be in control. He likes to control the narrative. The guy knows how to play the political game in sense. I think that he's more of a Ukrainian politician. I definitely think that a lot of as it's written in the article, that a lot of Western style politicians would definitely not want to deal with him because, like, for them he's a bit too brute, but he's getting shit done. Like, and I'm not a big fan of Yermak. Like, personally, if we will see him go, I would not mind it. Like, I don't like the guy, but I mean, he has been delivering results, and I've heard plenty of him actually delivering those results efficiently. So that's kind of like what I think. I think like she should go probably, but then again, not the politics right now in Washington, not specifically friendly to Ukraine. Like, and if you can just send someone weaker than Yermak that cannot stand up for Ukrainian interest, well, is it really worth it? And I'm not really completely sure that it's an accurate assessment. Like, I'm not gonna rant, but like just a little bit of a statement. Somewhere, someone had some kind of idea that the only way to interact with Donald Trump is grovel. Like, someone put this idiotic idea into the brains of the people that are interacting with Donald Trump and on the political level and so on. And this has been absolutely sprouting all throughout the political spectrum across Europe and everyone. And everywhere people say is like, oh, you just need to like, you need to like allow him to walk all over you, and then the Trump is gonna find and work with you, and then you're gonna find some way to treat with Trump. Yet this is not what we've seen. Trump is being responsive. The meme taco has some basis for it. I know it's meme, but that meme doesn't come from nowhere. What the reality has shown, and Ukraine actually has shown itself by, for example, renegotiating the minerals deal, because you know how many calls Zelensky got to accept whatever deal US is proposal? Hundreds, if not thousands of them. And I know of that for certain, that there was significant pressure on President Zelensky to accept whatever shitty deal Trump throws at him, because that will supposedly get him on the good side. Yet, Zelensky didn't fold, and then it didn't put Ukraine in the shittier position. And if you say it's like, oh, but that's why he's not helping Ukraine. Bullshit. Like, he would not help Ukraine if Ukraine signed the deal, don't sign the deal. That deal was signed with like biggest applause and a spectacle that you could have ever imagined. Trump could get any kind of political points he wants. He still will milk some of those points. The point of the matter is, groveling has never helped working with Trump, but standing up to him and showing him to the place that he belongs initially causes a harsh reaction from him. But then as you kind of continue putting pressure and never back down, suddenly Trump's just, well, caves, and then suddenly you have much better situation. So I have no idea who was that idiot that said that everyone needs to grovel before Trump, because that is not what we've seen him being responsive to. All right, Morocco. When do you think that Taco will stop any feeble pretense of supporting Ukraine and switch to full-blown simping support for Russia? Man, it's just a second question, but I already need to go into some kind of a rant, okay? Let's do it. Okay, I'm gonna share with you my thought process, and this is my like analysis, but the analysis is based on like a secondary sources, hints. Like I could never really prove to anyone that there is like, there is like actual proper factual base for it. Like I would probably not be able to. So please take this as just my pure speculation. But if you follow this channel, and if you, for example, like interested in hearing what I think, this is what I think. So the current dynamics of Trump, Zelensky, Putin. Now, first and foremost, Trump really likes Putin, right? That is very true. We need to understand. But he also doesn't want to look weak, so he cannot just cave to Putin, like, because there is still some pressure on him within the US environment, most specifically because there is a massive support for Ukraine in US population in general. Close to 70%, which is an insane number this day and age, that 70% of Americans could potentially agree on anything. So Putin is dead. What? Okay, I need to double check. Nope. I see. I Google Putin death, and it gives me articles from 28th of October 2023. Sorry. Nope. Just checked. Putin is not dead. Bullshit. I'm gonna mute you because you got us false hope. How can I put a timeout? Yeah, put a timeout. I'm gonna put timeout. 10 minutes for Putin being not dead. Liar. No lies on this channel. Anyway, yes. So the dynamics between Trump, Putin, Zelensky. Trump, as I said, likes Putin, but he also doesn't really like Zelensky, but he's like kind of like supposedly forced to help Ukraine. They signed the deal, you know. Ukraine really outplayed Trump like politically. Ukraine really didn't have any window of any opportunity for Trump to really abandon Ukraine. I've talked about this extensively. So there is little to no, like, you know, pretense on why Trump can walk away from Ukraine. But Trump does believe Putin and what Putin says. So, judging by some of the statements Trump said in the past, what I feel was that they had conversation where Putin, one way or another, convinced Trump that without US support properly, then the Ukraine is going to be basically a sealed deal. That Putin says, like, if you just do not interfere, then I will deal with Ukraine. Like, I'm probably not these words, not specifically this language and so on, but we heard Trump saying something like this. Like, for example, when he says that Putin encircled like thousands of Ukrainian troops, and then it was the beautiful call by Trump that prevented those troops being killed, that the best concession that Russia is ready to give is not to destroy Ukraine completely. We heard these statements. So my idea is that Putin sold Trump on the idea that if he just do not interact, then Putin will deal with Ukraine, and then Ukraine will just disappear of Trump's table. Trump gets really annoyed because he actually needs to do something about Ukraine, and he doesn't want to do anything about Ukraine. He just wants that to go away because it's a complex situation that doesn't have easy solution. So he cannot just very quickly put himself in a camera light and make him look good. For example, you see when he ran away from this G7 summit, he went to talk about the Israel. Why? Well, because Israel like took very dominant position in their war against Iran. We're not going to be talking about this, maybe a little bit at some point, but like just to make a point. And he decided to kind of jump on that train is because Israel was in dominant position and Iran couldn't really do anything. So it's like easy, you know, publicity points for Trump. And he obviously got very excited. This is the easy victory that he wants. He wants people to do job for him and for him then to take credits. Like when there is a war between India and Pakistan, and then that war ends, and then Trump just proclaims as like, oh, it was all me. So that's kind of the mindset he has. Ukraine-Russia is a super complex topic. It's a super complex environment. And Putin kind of approached that as like, I know that Donald, you're frustrated, but I can take care from you like Russia. We are in dominant position. We are ready to basically finish off Ukraine, and then we're going to finish what we started. We're just going to, for example, take these parts of Ukraine, and then we'll make it go away. We're going to agree to some kind of deal, you know, kind of string Trump along in those kind of ways. Like, I don't know precise words again. And basically all these like 2 weeks delay is basically Trump believing Putin that Putin is about to solve this issue for him. Does it make sense for you? Because like he's just trying to be inactive. It's like someone else is already solving this for me. Because if he would not believe that it would go away, then it would require like some kind of a visual activity. I mean, that is what I'm thinking. As I said, this is my pure speculation. You don't have to believe me, but I truly believe that this kind of, for me, covers like it explains a lot of what Trump's position on everything it is. So it's like Trump is just waiting for Putin to essentially, as Putin promised, solve it for him. Now, Putin is probably not going to deliver on this because they suck, but like Trump is buying it. All right. Sorry for the long talk. It's been like boiling in my head for a while. I wanted to put it in writing somewhere, but I never really did. It's a long kind of write-up, and I never really find the read words because, as I said, I don't have like full sources. It's a lot of my speculation here. Konto is saying, when not if, Russia dissolve, how many new countries do you think will appear on the map? I think it's two nebulous topics. I would like to focus on some things that are more relevant. So it's a nice dream contour. I hope Russia will dissolve itself, but we need to work towards that, and then we can dream about it. MVGH, will EU release the frozen assets? Is the deadline soon? So there is going to be a vote relatively soon on the Russian frozen assets, but I do not think they will release them. I think that there is enough political will to not let those assets go. And if anything, we've learned that if there is a will, there is a way. That's very true for Europe. And I think there is a will for keeping those frozen Russian assets in Europe. However, using those Russian assets for Ukraine, that is probably not going to happen. Like, I don't expect Ukraine to get those assets. I think it has been confirmed to many people many times. Greg N asks, how recent development between Israel and Iran may affect Ukraine? It's going to depend on basically the timing. If this is just like a fast campaign where for example, Israel goes in, destroys major objects in Iran, and then Iran either capitulates or there's some kind of a deal process, then I think the impact will be relatively mild. However, if there is something like a ground operation of Israel, United States, if there is some of the other states get involved, if there is like a civil war in Iran that basically blocks the whole Gulf for oil trade and so on, and it's a prolonged civil war like it was in Syria, then it might get really bad for Ukraine. Like, then it's just gonna disrupt the economics so much. Kiki Lopez, why do you think Trump is avoiding any contacts with President Zelensky? I already explained. Zelensky is considered by Trump to be like a fly, like annoying fly, because he cannot just reject him completely because Zelensky and Ukraine outplayed Trump at every corner, but there is not enough pressure for them to meet. So it's so on. Georgies, are you a European? Is there anything the Hungarians could do to convince you to kick them out of EU? I know there isn't process for this, but is there nearly no red line in EU? Now, as we've seen, there is no red line in EU. EU is like full of cucks, unfortunately. There is no kind of good way. Like, I've been recently to the conference with regards to defense. Yeah, I go to those sometimes. And I've been to that conference with regards to defense tech, defense positioning of Europe, and I can share some of the perspectives. One of the things that the Nordic and like Central Eastern Europe region talked about, they say that the situation in Europe is completely unstable. We saw the betrayal that we cannot trust our allies across the sea. Well, mostly meaning obviously US. And they said like that the potential situation can escalate further, and that we will see some developments where we can kind of understand that we cannot trust our allies of NATO in the south. And it was just, for example, confirmed. I just read today the news that Spain is basically against a 5% NATO benchmark. So there is a lot of fragmentation in both NATO and EU with regards to security. I think it's all good challenges, but I feel that our political spectrum and decision-making is still subpar in response to these challenges that are being put forward, unfortunately. Couple shout-outs. Thank you so much, Russell Whiskey, for being a member for the channel for 25 months. Slava Ukraini, Heroem Slava, my friend. Edward Varzealand, welcome to the Brother in Arms. Thank you so much. Coco Cook, thank you so much for $5. Joe the Dude, thank you so much for 5 quid. Appreciate it. Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava, my friend. Guys, remember, this is my primary income. This is my job, and I appreciate all of the donations. But please, if you have some money to spare, please consider first and foremost donating to the fundraiser, to the Ukrainian armed forces. They are in need the help the most. I still get some money from the advertisement, but if you have like a couple of bucks to spare after that, I would obviously appreciate. This is something that I do to feed my family. So thank you. Let's go. Parum. Did Germany pay reparations after World War II? How much will Russia pay after this dumb war? Depending how the war will end, so far we do not know. I mean, realistically, they should pay, but we see that there is a lot of desire to let Russia off the hook. So, unfortunately. Dania Slamanig, why is Solovyov still alive? Well, because he's not a priority target. Chris Angel, thoughts on Ukrainian and EU officials stating that Russia is increasing their strategic reserves, whatever that means. Thoughts on Ukrainian and EU officials stating that Russia is increasing their strategic reserves. Okay, I need to understand. Okay, I need to understand the context in what it was says. Russia increasing strategic reserves, because without context, I cannot really. Okay, so there is a statement by. I'm gonna switch the view. Give me a second, so you can see what I'm seeing. So there's a statement. Russia is prepared. Oh shit. Russia is preparing strategic reserves for conflicts beyond Ukraine. Ukraine warns. Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiga warned on June 13 that Russia has begun preparing strategic military reserves, signaling plans for military operations that may extend beyond Ukraine. Okay. Yeah, I know this. I know this. So, what is meant here is that the Trump's administration provides a unique opportunity. This has been a military assessment and a military scenario that appeared in various discussions on the topic all across kind of Europe. And it was basically discussing the fact that Russia, while the Trump administration is active and NATO cannot fully provide the support and protection that it has, that Russia might use this moment while the Trump administration is there to erode the NATO alliance. So they might start doing some hybrid operations. So the strategic reserves that Sybiga is talking about is the reserves to conduct low-scale potential attacks against the eastern flank NATO countries in attempts to destabilize the alliance and essentially to make sure that the alliance fall apart even more. So that was what meant. It's a known problem. It's a known problem. But you know, what can we say? Like, I just know that this scenario is out there. Like, people know about this scenario, including the people that are responsible for the security. I have like some things to say about the security specialists like that I talked to. Like, I said it to their face that you're a joke. And I hope that they took it as a proper criticism. But like, yeah, I had the chance to talk with certain generals, and I didn't mince my words. William McDonald, thank you so much for 50 Canadian dollars. Appreciate it. Mitch Ashdown, thank you so much for 32 Canadian dollars. Thank you so much. I did put in fundraiser first. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. And fundraiser is very, very important. Thank you. Support the Ukrainian armed forces. They need it so much. It's literally a matter of life and death. Like, for me, it's just the food. Ricardo Zetino, have you heard of David Arahami, and what's your view of him? So David Arahami is a 50-50. It's like, I call him the coin toss politician. Like, David Arahami, like, one day he can say and do like the most based thing ever. Like, he's like, fuck yeah. Like, this is like the most patriotic Ukrainian stuff, like absolutely incredible. Like, I wish every single politician would be like this. And then the next day, like the coin just lands the other way around. And then he starts like, you know, like then they find out that he potentially starts setting up some corruption schemes, or like he says that we should be pardoning like corrupt judges or some shit like this. Not real cases. I'm just imagining, you know, that to kind of imagine, to give you an imagination of the scale, that David Arachamia is like, and he's in this weird balancing act that one day he can say the most and do most base things ever, and then the other day is like, you think is like, why is this guy still not in jail? So that's David Arachamia. Bob, do you think that Europe will ever have enough of Trump's position on Russia, and if so, when? I think in general Europe already had. I just think that Europe is just weak, and we do the same mistake that we did with Russia, except we do it with US. So one of my biggest criticisms in 2022 that I still haven't gotten over with, but unfortunately the argument is like so mute now, so it's I don't even come back to it because it's like, you know, we're so far down the line. But the argument that I made in 22 went something like this. We said never again. We made a promise after the fight with Nazis that it will be never again. Yet over time, it twisted and turned as never again, and we will make sure that it will never happen again. So whenever something that even closely resembles the Nazism that came out during the 30s and 40s, and what misery it brought to European continent, that we will do everything in our power to stop it, it kind of twisted and turned with the political class, with a system that we're gonna beg on our knees, we're gonna suck any dick that is thrown at us, we're gonna be the dirtiest whore possible, only please, please, please don't do it, Mr. Putin, ever again. We're gonna lick your boots, we're gonna do anything that you want. So you see the change of narrative and rhetoric that was with that never again. And I believe it's sort of kind of with the United States, that we say is like we're strong, independent, and we want to be like strong and independent, but like it's kind of hard to be strong and independent. So instead of actually doing like being strong and independent ourselves and taking responsibility for it, taking harsher stance on whatever Trump is throwing at us, actually stating to the US that like your tough love, as dogshit Hexet said it in his hearing, is like that you can shove it up yours where the sun don't shine. Well, instead we are starting groveling and just stating is like, no, Trump, of course, like you can say all of these bad words about how bad we in Europe are, and like your tariffs, of course your tariffs are fine, it's okay, totally fine, and so on. We are still not we have not internalized, I think, logical understanding that we need to be strong and independent is there. And I think actions are being done to move there. But internally, we have not fully processed what does that entail as a whole? What does it mean to be grow up? What does it mean? So, and right now, we are essentially a boy that got kicked out of the house saying, it's like either you start bringing money to the house, or you can never, or you should never come back. And instead of like starting to set up our grown life because we're a grown ass man that could really take care of ourselves, we instead crawled back to this father's and mother's bosom and says like, here, we're gonna do everything that we can. And we're still being a little bitch mummy boy, unfortunately, despite the fact that we're already going to work and earning our salary. Igor's Mind, new Ukrainian army commander, what is known about him? Okay, now you're confusing me. Did Ukraine get a new army commander? I think it's still Syrskyi. Is it not Syrskyi? Commander-in-Chief Ukraine. It's still Syrskyi. Yeah, it's still Syrskyi. I'm not crazy. So I'm not really sure. What do you mean, the Ukraine army commander? Don't know what you mean. Maybe be more precise what you mean. Adrian says, gee, what percentage of 2025 Russian budget is ring-fenced for the armed forces? Russian ambassador to UK says it's only 7% to CNN. So the estimates were about 40% officially, 60% non-officially. Around those numbers. Stephen Bendel, will rise in oil prices due to war in Iran help Russia substantially? Yes, as I said, this is the long-term risk. And here, for example, European Union not pulling the tit of US out of their mouth is really showing, because EU was offering that they're going to put a $45 ceiling for the Russian oil, yet whoop. Trump said no, and everyone's kind of like, okay. Chris Angel, any details you can share about Ukraine's missile production and their ability to mass produce them without violating OPSEC? Okay. So Russians were recently talking about Ukrainian militaries. They were not talking about any quantities, but they were quoting some of the public discussions about the Krim 2 and other missiles. But basically, Russians say that when Ukraine gets ballistic missiles, then they will have serious issues with some of the frontline operations, specifically like fighter jets, and so on, because Russia doesn't have a lot of ability to stop more substantial ballistic missile strikes. Attackams have been pretty successful. Ricardo Zettino, how is the competence of the Ukrainian military officer corps in 2025 compared to 2015? It's still pretty shit. So what you need to understand between 2015 and 2025 is the scale of military. I mean, in 2015, the Ukrainian corps was also pretty shit, mostly because a lot of the Soviet officers were there. The actual Ukrainian military kind of rose up closer to like 2017, 2018. That's when their officer corps kind of became really solid. After which the war started, a lot of people from that officer corps got killed. Ukraine called in a lot of these older Soviet-style officers. Some of them got killed. So then they started training mobilized officers. But it's a very poor training. It's a very poor officers that never actually selected to be a career officers. And some of their like a forced career officers. It's pretty bad. Like Ukrainian officer corps is pretty bad. I've interacted with some of the officers that are not like, from these famous as brigades in Ukrainian military. And to say that I was not impressed is an understatement. Like they were like shit. The guys don't understand what they are, what are they doing. They do not think like any kind of strategically. So there's still huge issues with the Ukrainian officer corps. But with that said, like important to underscore, there are notable examples, specifically like big brigades like the 3rd Assault Brigade and Azov. They have been pretty excellent. They have been pretty nice. 93rd Brigade, the one that we're actually supporting, the Alcatraz battalion from the 93rd Brigade, we actually had like somewhere. Let me find it. I stood up and got afraid because I forgot whether I was wearing pants or not. We have the 93rd Brigade's logo carved in metal. This one was for one of the first deliveries of the channel that we did with some of the trucks. It was a huge thank you from them. It's a big, massive metal piece. That was pretty impressive. But the 93rd Brigade, they sustained a shitloads of losses, and a lot of their command and general structure of the brigade has been like reshuffled many times. So modern 93rd Brigade can be hit and miss. Zoka756 asked, Trump presented a $499 smartphone as proudly designed and built in the USA, made in China. Yeah, sure. Again, Trump is being Trump. Like, the only way that I look at Trump is like his influence in Ukraine. And to be honest, I don't cover him that much because his influence is actually not that significant. Like, if only he would just do nothing, that would be much more easier. But like, they're actively trying to support Russia, and that is super annoying. Tess, do you think this Israel-Iran conflict plays is Putin's hand? I already talked about this. Data relay. Hi, Georgies. What happened to your neck? I had a surgery some 10 days ago. It was a suspicion for cancer, so we just took it out. So now I'm missing a piece of me. William McDonald, I believe Trump has no interest in solving the invasion of Ukraine as it does not fit with his overriding desire to break up the EU. Yeah, potentially. Again, I don't go that much. I mean, I have my ideas on why he's doing it. I think he finds democracies in generally annoying to deal with just because they are too complicated. Again, I think he has like a very simple mind. Like, there's like two bends in his like brain cell, and that's how he's able to think a little bit, because like, oh, democracies and how democracies are working too complicated. Like, understanding that UK left the EU and they're not the same thing, but they're both in Europe, is just like, it's already too much to ask. Is there any idea of how much aid is left to come into Ukraine from Biden administration? There has been like quite a lot of aid that was coming from Biden administration, at least supposed to come from Biden's administration. However, Trump's administration already diverted some of that contracted help that was supposed to go, being produced in US factories, contracted for Ukraine, but delivered to the US forces in the Middle East. So that was already a lot of things that have been delivered. We've heard that potentially other orders will be delivered. So maybe there is still a lot of aid that are supposed to go to Ukraine. But if Trump's administration is just going to continue diverting it to their own needs, well, then potentially none. Oh yeah, if you didn't know, yeah, Trump is basically stealing Ukraine's goods that are being produced, that are already paid for. Pervertby, will the economic collapse stop the war or just make everything go Sovilov and friends? Can Putin run away with no war and money? So the war will not stop. Like, that's important to understand about Russian economy. The war will not stop, but the most important thing will start happening. A lot of people were expecting there's going to be some kind of social pressure on Putin from Russia. And Putin is receptible to the social pressures. I know we'd like to dismiss and says like Putin can just do whatever it takes, but that's not completely true. Like, take, for example, mobilization, right? Putin did mobilization and then he saw people flee and it was disgusting. And since then, he's like, we're not going to do it this way anyway. So they started trying to do like hidden mobilization. They started to approach it differently. They started mostly putting in the money and trying to make their kind of like justified ignorance for the total population, because like everyone that is fighting in the Russian army has signed the contract one way or another and they're getting the money paid for it. So it was technically their own choice. So it's like it allows the plausible deniability to every single person in Russia. But in general, Russia was not living great, and the civil society did suffer a little bit, but not too much. Mostly because Putin was living off of a big war chest. Now, the war chest, as we discussed, are going to be done in 2025. There is not going to be any more war chest. So finally, the money will need to come from somewhere, and either it will come from government essentially printing money and raising inflation, which will be skyrocketing inflation, and then, well, fun times for the Russian population, or Putin will freeze the assets, or something else entirely. New taxes, I don't know, slave labor, that's a possibility. Like, if you think that it's not impossible for Putin to just like put up these factories and put in like put in like the guard and just force people to work, forced labor. Yeah, that has been proven, like food stamps, massive, like basically like in the Soviet Union in the 80s. All of that good stuff can really come back, but it's not there yet. So the population still in full do not really feel the price that they're paying for this war. And that will come. And that it will open possibilities. Like that social disbalance inside of Russia will open new possibilities. First and foremost. Przemysław Novak says, about frozen assets, there are talks to invest them in more risky area for greater rewards. Your thoughts, G? Give them to Ukraine. Like, that's been my thought from day one. So it's the best return on investment that we can get. Like, if you ask me where would be the best way to invest the money in Europe, invest it in Ukrainian defense. The returns of investment are going to be insane. Rico says, berries are definitely the best money maker for now. Yeah, maybe. JJ says, as a retrospective of Operation Spiderweb, why are the FSB grew less capable of countering challenges to sabotage operations compared to SBU, considering Ukraine has Russian sympathizers? They're not. Like, I would not completely dismiss the activities of FSB GRU. They have been very active, but Ukrainian special services have been pretty good. They have been outplaying Russian special services, because you need to understand two very different things. For a long time in Russian special services, the career ladder was not, I am more competent than the other guy. It was more about, I am more loyal than the other guy. That was true, like basically the whole pyramid starting from Putin, and then it was like a loyalty pyramid. That was the FSB. So loyalty and competence do not fully go hand in hand. However, we should not be dismissing and saying that they completely don't know what is happening, because they do. And Russian, for example, media apparatus is really fucking good. Their propaganda apparatus is really, really good. So they're using it to a pretty long extent. Their actual operations planning, well, here we just stumble upon lack of knowledge. For example, how many assassination attempts on Zelensky do you know of? Would it be surprised to you to know that there has been over 40 for sure, that I know of? So there has been over 40 assassination attempts on President Zelensky, yet we barely hear of any one of those. So it takes something to set up some assassination attempts, but if they fail, then I guess Ukrainians are doing something right. It's a game that is played in two directions. So the fact that maybe Russia cannot always crack the most competent intelligence agency in Europe, maybe that shouldn't get us too discouraged. Maybe the Ukrainians are just good. Kiki Lopez, do you think NATO will step up and defend another country if attacked by Russia? No. I don't think NATO will do shit. I think NATO is brain dead by this point, if I can quote. The only thing that still stays NATO is just a framework, but it's a pure coalition of the willing bullshit. So if there is an attack on, like, let's say Latvia, I'm Latvian, so I can say Latvia. If there is an attack on Latvia, I would consider that maybe Nordic Baltic 8 would respond to that. And we're talking like actual, like physical, like Russian forces rolling over the border. If it's a hybrid warfare, potentially even the allies from Nordic Baltic 8 will be hesitant to respond with any kind of military force to that. So it's there are mostly good discussions, but like expecting that suddenly, like, I don't know, I don't want to zero anyone out, but suddenly like Portugal comes in and says like, oh shit, Russia is hybrid attacking Estonia. It's time for us to send our troops to Estonia to defend Estonia because they are part of our NATO brotherhood. Yeah, I have very tough time believing that. And again, don't want to zero out Portugal here. It's just like, I'm just saying that the vibes are very, very much group thinking, like tribal in NATO right now. And US will do shit. Anadrolus, I believe that Trump is paid by Putin, or why does he simp for him so much? Maybe Putin has dirty videos with Trump and Russian women. Paid, quite possibly. Trump has plenty of schemes. Trump has turned his presidency into personal profiteering business, but that doesn't bother really any modern American. Like, they have bigger issues to deal with right now with Trump. Trump has crossed any single border of like red line of what it means to be like an American president, and keeps going. There's a strong support for him in US. What was the recent polls? Like 42% support still. So like just under the half of Americans think that he's a jolly fellow and doing a great job. So Trump is doing fine. Tadas Boitsovas, given how heavily Ukraine strike Russian drone factories all the time, how is Russia still able to launch so many drones almost every night? Because, Tadas, you are missing the scale. So this is not like a stone in your garden. This is what a lot of people just in generally miss about this conflict. Like when they talk about like, oh, Ukraine is fighting Russia, and they think about this like this is like some kind of small conflict, you know, like that is breeding. It's like, and people just like, unless someone comes to Ukraine or was, for example, in Ukraine, just to understand the scale of that, the length of that 2,000 kilometers front line, just going through Ukraine, the never-ending country, when you go through, when it takes you like overnight to just reach from one part of the country to just the middle, and then another overnight to just reach to the other part, and then you say it's like, holy shit, that's a huge front line. And people is like, okay, yeah, don't misunderstand. But the same also applies to, for example, stuff like strikes. For example, imagine two drones that carry massive explosives, insane, like let's say 300 kilos of explosives, big fireball. But then they strike Russian factory, and Russian factory is built, let's say, like a sort of a Soviet factory. Soviet factories were built like cities. Even like the 300 kilo bomb can destroy a building. But I want you to imagine like city block. Now imagine like 10 city blocks. And then you have like one drone that hit maybe one very crucial part of that drone production that will definitely set back a lot of that production, but it doesn't destroy the stockpiles, it doesn't destroy the rails that are bringing components, it doesn't destroy some of the facilities where they can be redislocated. So it's a disruption, yes, annoyance, yes, but it's not enough to destroy this city block size factory. No, it's actually more than city block. It's more closer to like just generally a town, like a city. So you're thinking about this in a very small scale. It's a huge conflict, massive. I just saw it somewhere. H asks, what do you think about the potential for yet more new military aid weapons innovations from Ukrainian side? They're coming. Mish Ashdown, do you have any inside news on Russian buildup fortification near Finland? Yeah, I've read the news article. The amount of fortification buildup and building of troops is like minuscule. Like, we're talking like maybe like, what was it? Like, they're building tents to hold like some 2,000 troops, like 2,000 troops. That's like what, daily casualty number for Russian? You get me. Like it's a non-starter. Sava Junkie, does the Iran war will impact? Okay, I already talked about this. Arimo, what do you think about Keir Starmer pick up Trump blank papers? I mean, it's an event. I don't overthink Trump. Like, I stopped overthinking him, and I've been better off since. A Russian asset is a Russian asset, and that's all I need to know. I don't treat him as a friend. I don't treat him as an ally. I treat him as a buffoon that got into a place of power, and now we need to deal with this idiot. I talked about my neck, my Roku. Thank you. Katie, thank you so much for 5 gifted memberships. Nathaniel, thank you so much for $20. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys, for the support. Please support the fundraiser. That's the most important part. Ali says, Brigadier General Gennady Shapovalov has been appointed commander of Ukrainian's Operational Command South. If this is the guy that I think got let me Google it. I think it is Gennady Shapovalov. I need to see the picture. Yes. Yeah. So this guy is pretty good. Like, this guy is pretty good. I obviously don't know him personally. I've never served. I never served with him. So I don't know. I don't have any personal experience, but the responses was that he is pretty good. So they say that this is a okay general. So approved. Oh yeah, if nobody country sets tariffs, then the world economy slows and global recession. Will Russia and drive them down? Yes or no? Slowdown of the world economy benefits Ukraine. Stephen Bendel, will Robert Magyar make a real difference in his new role? He can. He definitely have a different vision. I share his vision, so I hope that he will succeed. Ricardo Zetino, for Ukraine Matters, any commander in another word... Army commander is another word for a ground force commander. Ground force commander. Wait, I thought Ukraine still doesn't have a new ground force commander. Okay, it is the Shapovalov. No. So Ali just says like that he is now the general ground force commander Gennady Shapovalov. Okay. Now we got in. Yeah, because Drapati dropped out because of his issues. There are some insights, but I've never seen Russians cover it, so I'm not going to talk about this. But the Shapovalov, I've heard good things about. Joe the Dude, when will Americans wake up and see that Taco is the agent of Russia? I think Americans overall are starting to wake up. I've seen the protests in US. They're pretty big, but let's just say they're pretty one-sided so far. There needs to be more. Konto says, where is the donate button on Fundraiser? As it is in Danish, not English, when I click from the link. Oh, shit. Oh, because it is since my... Oh, my God. Sorry, guys. I will fix the link. Oh, my bad. It's because, like, yes. It's their auto language select. Oh, give me a second. I think I'll fix it. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it automatically sets Danish. Can I set it in English? Campaigns. 1 second, guys. We need to fix this because we need to get the... There we go. This is the correct link. I'm very, very sorry. I'm just like... I didn't even filter out that it was not in English. I'm sorry. I'm just too used to Danish. Sorry. David Pickering. That's a nice name. Oh, wait, no, but that one was not David Pickering. That was Ronnie Pickering. Never mind. Sorry, obscure English memes. David, no, I love your last name. Is the new Israel-Iran war is a net positive? I already talked about this. Sorry, my man. Chris Angel, thoughts on the Kiel Institute analysis that Europe needs to be able to largely fill the gap left by the US? Of course, not every among all members. Yeah, Chris, I seen the analysis. I actually read the full paper. There's like, when you go in depth, there's like a full paper that explains specifically what Europe needs to do to kind of fill in the gaps and so on. And I've seen already assessment that Europe in large sense is already almost filling in fully. So Europe stepped up significantly to an extent that they're almost fully covering what US was providing. So Europe does good so far. That's if that's like maybe I'm going to include it in the next video. Bernd K, will Putin plunder citizen savings next that is as the wellness fund runs out? Bernd, he does well. I mean, you can say that yes, he can, like, because he's not going to take money from the citizens' accounts. He's just gonna freeze the withdrawal options or allow you to withdraw, you know, like you have $100,000 on your account, but you can withdraw, let's say, like a 1,000 a day from your 100,000 on your bank account. Yet Putin at the same time turns on the printing machines and starts the emission of funds into the Russian economy. The inflation rises, the value of money decreases, and while you can still get like your $1,000 a day from that bank account, technically the amount of money that you have on your bank konto will start decreasing because money is just going to be worth less. Per Verbi, no, Zelensky just announced today that the former army commander is replaced after the Ruskies killed soldiers on a training ground. Yes. Gato says, great job. Do you think that there will be another mobilization in Russia, known that Russian army keeps losing my man? I did a video specifically on the Russian mobilization. It's a video where I have like Russian military with like crosses on red on thumbnail. Check out that video. I talk about it pretty extensively. Crazy says, are the frozen Russian assets liquid? Otherwise, the mechanism using loans may be necessary. Yes, they're liquid as far as I know. Michaels, what is your thoughts around Russian buildup along the Finnish border? Already talked about. Manmithut. I'm curious if I missed announcement or are there things to come still coming? You promised some announcement. Said about, are you working on slow train coming or not longer a topic? It is coming. It is coming. People that are in the know, man, how do I talk about this? It's very soon. Hopefully, I will be able to give an update at the end of July. More of like a reveal, not like an update. Like an update would be like the things that we said are happening. The reveal will be at the end of July. The delay is because we are reaching a lot higher things that we thought we will reach. And there is a lot more news to share. There we go. Like, so the delay is positive rather than negative. So not that there is like a delay in operations, it's just the operations and the plan that we were hoping to open up. Once we started kind of pitching it even internally, it got a bit bigger, so it takes us a bit more time to prepare. There we go. That's the explanation that I can give so far. It is happening. It is most definitely happening. And it's to an extent, like I'm gonna tell you like this. To an extent, it is already happening. It's just I cannot share you the results of the happening. Let's put it this way. Legislator says, nice name, by the way. Can you provide us with more information, interviews, or insights of the Alcatraz Brigade in the upcoming videos or streams? Yeah, I think I will get the public spokesperson, like the public relations officer. Sorry, I forgot the name. Public relations officer, April, and I probably will get her to record a video with me. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about. Is there anything specific you would like to know? Guys, maybe I'll make let's do it this way. I'll make a post in my community group, and we will create some questions that they can answer. That would be pretty cool, I think. Anthony Fox, hi there. I hope that Ukraine will win, and I believe they will. Yes, I truly believe they will. It's just, unfortunately, our own governments and Ukrainian allies are not making it easy, but we're doing our part. At least we're trying to do our part as much as we can. Remember, Ukraine matters not because of it's Ukraine or because there are people or because there are people that are escaping war. There are some rich Ukrainians that are celebrating whatever. No, none of that. Ukraine matters because there is also, well, firstly, it's moral, if morality means something to you. But if morality doesn't mean anything to you, then our safety is dependent on this. Like if Russia is on the border with Poland, it's going to create a much dangerous world and much more unstable world for us own. It's on our own best interest to support Ukraine so Ukraine reaches some kind of a more stable peace deal. And we live maybe not perfectly stable world. I'm not even sure. We can come back to it. I think we really blew it, but at least something more controllable than what we have so far. Kaimo, do we know anything about the last attack on the Kerch Bridge? Were those pillars damaged or not? I have this in my schedule that I need to follow up. I haven't followed up with the research on this. So I'm going to put a pin in this, Kaimo, and I will answer this question at some point. Just haven't introduced myself to the topic as much as I wanted. Deborah Borlais just joined. Love you all. What you do, you may have talked about it already, but curious if Israel has aerial supremacy, how is Iran able to send so many missiles hitting Tel Aviv, etc.? They're not. We've seen significant decrease of missiles being sent at Israel. Again, this is another thing that we need to understand as let me see. Let me find this website. The website. There we go. There we go. This is the website that we need to look at. How do I switch? Give me a second. Transition. So this is the website that we need to look at. So let's add what we're looking at here. So Israel. That's Israel. And that's Iran. Let's highlight Iran. Oh, shit. Could have been better color. But you see, you see the scale and difference, right? And this is kind of what we need to understand. Israel doesn't really doesn't border Iran. So all of the planes that Israel is sending, they might be flying towards specific locations, but Iran still has the possibility to maneuver its mobile warheads somewhere. Iran is not a small country. Iran is a big country. If we look up Iran population, then you find out that it's over 90 million people. Iran is a big country. Just for comparison, Israel is 10 times lower than that. So Israel is midget level country compared to Iran. Now, the technological level is not there. We see that Israel is definitely controlling certain areas of air where they're operating. So their ground forces or longer range forces are able to disable the Iranian anti-air systems within Israel's area of operations. So we see their planes that are flying in Iran just dropping basically dumb bombs, and that is something that definitely requires a complete air dominance. However, that air dominance is not blanket. There is plenty of spaces where Iran could still have operations and missiles active. However, we've seen a general decrease in number of missiles being shot at Israel. Now, some people have said, but Israel has Iron Dome. Iron Dome is a very specific part of the anti-air mechanism. Iron Dome has been made to fight off specifically pipe missiles. So missiles that are basically crafted in sweatshops and made out of the water pipes to send towards Israel. It's not meant to intercept, for example, ballistic missiles, which Iran is firing at Israel. Majority of damage that Iran is doing at Israel is basically by using ballistic missiles. The defense that Israel has was Patriot systems against ballistic missiles, and they have their own system that I forgot how it was called. Was it the was it the Sling of David? Sling of David system. Was it magic one which covers the middle layer? No, Sling of David was a medium range. So one of those should be covering. Like I don't remember the name. Sorry, like I'm not a complete war expert. I just kind of learned certain things over the last 3 years that I've been digging deep into this topic of Ukraine war, and kind of became more educated on what war generally is like. So yeah, Israel is dominant in their relative area of operations, but they're not fully dominating Iran yet, and I'm not even sure if they're able to dominate Iran in general. That's why I think they're trying to push for the kind of civil uprising against the current ruling caste in Iran. Michaela Riles, I don't believe Donald 2 weeks. Trump clearly proved that he's Putin's puppet. His regime is fully infected of our FBI, rendering it useless. Are any of your security services investigating? My security services? Well, I know. Oh, shit. Now I'm not just a YouTuber. Now I have my own security services investigating. Shit. I need my glasses. Okay, can you pretend that I have glasses? Man, I need and glasses. Wait. Was it sunglasses? PNG. There we go. There we go. Oh my god, it's all okay. Just pretend I have sunglasses. Like this. Whatever. Yeah. I will definitely send my security services to investigate Trump. Thank you for the comment, Michael. That was lovely. That was made good laughs. Okay, but that was the last question, guys. I think it was pretty cool, very productive. Thank you so much to everyone that has joined. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate the questions. I'm very glad we were able to finally speak once again. Hope you have a great day. Please participate in Fundraiser if you can. Support the Ukrainian Armed Forces. Remember to trust in Ukraine, believe in Ukrainian Armed Forces. And I will see you guys next time.
Ukraini.